Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. Just extremely excited to honor our 2023 ABPA award winners. We have quite a group of distinguished alum as well as faculty, as well as staff members, and just really excited to honor them. We gave most of the awards at reunions to make sure that people had a chance to celebrate in person, but really wanted to create a space where we could thoughtfully record and really share and keep these memories for a while. So excited to be able to honor them here today, and we'll kind of go through this. And as we go through the awards, really just want to be able to give people their thoughtful flowers. So really excited to dive in. We have both a current student, a recent graduate alum, three alums, and then a staff member who we'll be honoring here. So without too much further ado, I'll go ahead and do is I will actually kick it off with our student award winner. And for the ABPA Student Book Award, the award language says, in recognition of a student who exhibits high levels of performance and service noteworthy to ABPA. And this year, the award winner is Kyle Aisi. And for Kyle, a little bit of background on him. He is a rising senior from Pickerton, Ohio, studying neuroscience with a minor in stats and machine learning. On campus, he's involved with the club volleyball team, a peer academic advisor, dances with Black Arts Company BAC, and is a member in culture organizations like PBMA, PASA, and the BSU. So without further ado, would love to welcome Kyle and have him share a little bit about his story and his journey.
Thank you, Eric. I don't have too much to say. I want to say thank you to everybody who's here, the ABPA, Eric, and everybody for this award. It's really an honor. For me, like Eric was saying, I come out of Pickerington, Ohio, and so it's right outside of Columbus, and so I kind of got both worlds. I was able to kind of see suburban life, but then also the inner city of Columbus, and so coming to Princeton and just coming to Princeton kind of opened my eyes up to even more of the diversity that we have here. And so really great experience for me. In my first year, I was very excited for senior year, ready to graduate, but again, I don't have too much to say. I just want to talk a little bit about my parents were bringing me up. One thing that they always kind of said to me was that because of the color of your skin, you're not going to get the respect that some of your peers might get. And so the way to kind of earn that respect is by working hard, earning various accolades. Attending Princeton is kind of just like the first step. That's one thing that's kind of a tool to help people recognize you in the workforce and just in the world in general. And so that's kind of been my inspiration when it comes to working hard in school, but then also academics aren't everything. We also want to be well-rounded people. And so my extracurriculars have been something that have been one of the greatest parts of my time here at Princeton, BAC in particular. It's been a great time learning. I was never a dancer in high school. And so when I got here, it was a great way to kind of just release energy, especially when classes get super stressful, and perform for my friends and peers. And that's just been a great way for me to get to meet a lot of people and build community. And so, yeah, that's really all that I have to say. Princeton's been a great experience for me so far. And I can think of lots of different people that I've met in my time here who also deserve recognition or an award like this. But I am blessed to have been chosen and to receive this. And so thank you again. Yeah, that's everything for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. Really appreciate it, man. Awesome. So next up, we will actually have the Patrice Y. Johnson Graduate Award. And the language on this award is Patrice Y. Johnson Star 80 Memorial Service Award. And the language on this award is in recognition of the graduate student who has served as a model for other Princetonians. And this year's award winner is Erin Flowers, Star 23. And I'll give you a little background on Erin. She is a recent PhD graduate from the Department of Astrophysical Science at Princeton University. Her research interests include astrobiology and theoretical and observational exoplanet characterizations and detection. For her thesis, she worked with Chris Chiba to study Saturn's largest moon, Titan. Titan is a moon unlike any other in our solar system, with a robust atmosphere and liquid on its surface, though the liquid is methane and not water. She's had the pleasure of being part of an upcoming NASA mission that will launch to probe Titan in a few years. On campus, she was the head of diversity fellows for the Access, Diversity and Inclusion Office to help foster greater diversity and inclusion on our campus through both social and educational events. She's organized both large parties and creative outings for her fellow grad students, and has also worked with other campus offices to run workshops on how to be more effective teacher and mentor as a grad student. In particular, she really enjoyed her one-on-one interactions with undergrads, both as a mentor for young women in astrophysics and physics departments, and as a recruiter for the graduate programs at conferences. So without further ado, would love to share the floor with Erin and have her share a little bit more about her story and her journey.
Hi, thank you, Eric, and thank you all so much for giving me this award. I wish I had put a bit more of my personal background in my bio, but I can say I was born in Detroit, moved to New York City, and haven't really left ever since. Came here for college. I went to Columbia University, where I also studied astrophysics. And for myself, I come from a long line of educators, and everything I do is motivated by education, because even my great-great-grandparents believed in education. I had my great-great-grandmother's college textbooks. So I come from a very long line of teachers, but I know education can't happen in a vacuum. It's more than just reading. It's more than just taking tests. You have to have a community of people around you who are supporting you and who are cheering you on, and who also can help be other voices who are going through that same educational struggle with you. So a lot of my work with the Access, Diversity, and Inclusion Office on campus has been specifically toward supporting minority students on campus, students who look like me in the STEM fields in particular. I'm only the 25th Black woman ever to get a PhD in astrophysics in this country. And so I've never had role models who looked like me in any of my classrooms. And I very rarely ran into others who looked like me as students in those classrooms. Luckily, we find each other across the country and form our own community. But everything I've done is motivated by wanting to increase the diversity wherever I am, and also helping those in my community to achieve any dreams they might have related to science or education. I probably also forgot to mention a great part of my work on campus has also been with the Prison Teaching Initiative. And so teaching students in local New Jersey prisons and state and federal prisons. And most of those are our brothers and sisters. We all know that Black and Brown people are disproportionately affected by the school to prison pipeline. And so it's been incredibly rewarding working with them as well. So today it's just been an honor to be recognized for some of that work that I've been doing. And I'm so happy to, been bestowed this honor that was named after a wonderful graduate student who has since left us. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you all so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Erin. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate your story, and didn't realize you were the 25th Black woman to ever get a PhD in astrophysics. That's a pretty wild stat and very awesome. So excited to continue to watch your journey for sure. So with that, we will move on to our Carl A. Fields Memorial University Service Award. And this award is in recognition of the administrator who epitomizes the spirit and excellence of Princeton University. And this year's winner is Tennille Haynes. And I'll give a little bit of background on Tennille. So with 16 years of experience in student affairs, Tennille T. Haynes, has been a highly respected member of the Princeton community since 2012. After serving as the director of the Carl Field Center for Equality and Cultural Understanding for a decade, she now holds the position of Associate Dean of Diversity and Inclusion in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Campus Life at Princeton University. Tennille collaborates closely with the campus community to promote co-curricular learning for students, faculty, and staff as an advisor, educator, practitioner, and consulting resource on diversity, inclusion, social justice, and community matters. She leads the way in ODIs, so Office of Diversity and Inclusion, strategic and programmatic directions. Tennille's dedication to creating inclusive spaces for individuals with marginalized backgrounds, marginalized identities, drives her work. Originally from the Bronx in New York, she holds a PhD from Rutgers University, New Brunswick, a bachelor's degree in history from Stony Brook University, and a master's education from Utica College. Tennille is passionate about expanding scholarship and exploring the development and experiences of people of color in predominantly white institutions. Her research aims to uncover the systems, structures, and policies that have historically marginalized these communities. In addition, Tennille is committed to creating inclusive and supportive environments for individuals with marginalized identities, past and present. With that, I would like to share the floor with Ms. Tennille Haynes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's such an honor to be with you all this evening and to receive the Carl Fields Award as well too. As stated, I've been at Princeton. This is my 11th academic year, and I had the pleasure of spending pretty much all of that time in the Carl Fields Center, creating a space for all students on campus, and particularly Black and Brown students at Princeton as well too. And I've had the extreme pleasure of working with so many people in ABPA as well throughout the years on programming and other initiatives and thinking about how to support students. I've learned so much from the legacy of Dr. Fields. And, it's so interesting when he came to Princeton in the 70s as well too, and brought in and started and became the first Black dean in the Ivy League as well too, and doing the work that he did of making Princeton a community for a lot of students who needed that community as well. And he became a dean there. I became a dean there as well too. And it was such an honor just to work with his family and continuing that legacy of his work and doing our best to keep that community that a lot of you had at Princeton, whether it was in the Third World Center or it was with the Carl Fields Center as well too. So education means a lot to me, as many of you have stated before as well too, but also making sure that all students, particularly Black students, feel like they belong at Princeton and it's a space for them. It is not something that was just given to them. They work very hard to be there as well too. And it's beyond being grateful or anything like that. Is that it's, Princeton should be honored to have all of you there as well, and all the work that all the students have done and put in so much, when really they should just be there studying and they should just be earning their degrees, and they're putting in so much time and effort to make sure that their peers and other students who come in after them have a better experience than they did. And I'm honored to be a part of that work and to continue to bring that legacy that so many of you have left there, and the work that you continue to do by being involved in the Alumni Association in Princeton as well. So thank you so much for this award. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tennille. Really appreciate all you've done on campus, and it's been palpable, the difference that I've seen in the Field Center the 10 years you were there, and I know that legacy will definitely continue on. So thank you a ton, Tennille. Awesome. So next up, we have our Alumni Service Award, and this year's, and I'll read the language for the award. So the Alumni Service Award is in recognition of the alumni who through their career and service exemplifies Princeton University. And this year's award winner is James H. Simmons III, Jim Simmons as I know him. And I'll kind of give some background. So he is a veteran investment professional with 20 years, more than 20 years of experience managing innovative real estate funds for two of the industry's most predominant asset managers, Ares Management and Area Property Partners slash Apollo Real Estate Advisors. In addition to previous public sector experience leading the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone Development Corporation, Mr. Simmons now serves as CEO and managing partner for Aslan Capital Partners, an institutional investment management platform he founded in January 2019, serving as head of the investment committee with responsibility for the strategic direction and the investment strategy of the firm. Mr. Simmons currently serves as a member of the board of directors and chair of the compliance committee for Scion Health and the board of directors of Regency Centers. Additionally, he serves on several nonprofit boards, including as vice chair of the Real Estate Executive Council and as a member of the board of the Dalton School and the 125th Business Improvement District. Jim has also in the past been the vice chair of the National Annual Giving campaign at Princeton. Believe he also started the Connect initiative, which was focused on getting more Black donations into the annual giving pipeline. And I've also worked with Jim as part of the Princeton Entrepreneurship Council as well. He is an ambassador for Princeton wherever he goes, and I'm excited to have him share a little more about his story. So, Jim, I will pass the mic to you.
Thank you, Eric. I will take credit for single-handedly being the reason why none of us could speak at reunions, because I said to Eric, I said, listen, if you give me the mic, I'm going to talk for like 45 minutes. And so he decided that none of us would speak that day, but it's only because of my love and affection for ABPA that I would have so much to say, and in turn for the university. I spent the first 5 years fairly disengaged from the university, not disengaged in a purposeful way, but just focused on career and just graduating. And I was fortuitous to have a conversation with probably my biggest mentor as it relates to Princeton, Brent Henry. And he encouraged me to become involved. And the reason why he encouraged me to become involved, as he had, is that he started, his relationship with Princeton was extremely rocky. And he started by being one of those that took over Nassau Hall when he was a student and ended up becoming a trustee early in his career. And his commentary to me was that it is much easier to change and affect change within an institution if you're closer to the positions of power as opposed to farther away. And if you really want to make a difference, and there are various ways to do so, you can do so within the framework of helping to guide the direction of the institution. And so that started my foray into service within the Princeton community with a long tenure within annual giving and within various and other aspects of the university. But as it came to annual giving, I had many conversations with alums, many of my classmates who were reluctant to participate, and rightly so, and reluctant in the sense that their tenures at the university were not ones that they look back upon very fondly. And we all suffered from, you remember the bad more than you do the good. And I posited those conversations with a couple of questions, which to me enveloped the importance of the university to many of our lives. And the first of which was, tell me who are some of your best friends. Tell me who are the godparents to your children. Tell me who was invited to your weddings. Tell me who you spend your vacations with today. More often than not, people answer that question or those series of questions with Princetonians. Secondarily, I asked about sort of their career paths and the various levels of success that they had achieved, and whether they felt that those achievements would have been the heights would have been able to be reached without the benefit of the Princeton education. And invariably the answer was no. And the last question I asked, I said, well, would you send your child here? And 99% of the time people would say yes. And so I would say, well, if it were that bad, surely you wouldn't want to send your child to a place that was horrible. And the answer generally was, well, if I really analyzed it, wasn't that bad. But even if it was, what the university did for me and what it could do for my child is worth it at the end of the day. So my last commentary would be, well, if the university is as bad as it was when we were there, in whatever ways in which it was not what we expected, then shouldn't the onus be on, and I won't say us, but certainly me, to help effectuate that change such that when our children do matriculate, that it is a better place. And so I've spent the better part of my career trying to help make it that better place in as many small ways as I can. And if that means mentoring kids who come out of programs from New York City, who are first generational students who walk on campus and have no amount of familiarity, no safety net, no group of friends, to try to get them connected to people who are already there, or to help the women's lacrosse team go from, to my knowledge, very few, if any, African-American women to today we have 5, 1 sophomore and 4 freshmen, which we may argue is not important, but I think that it is every bit as important that we have African-American engineers, African-American astrophysics majors, African-American lacrosse players, African-American crew players, African-American polo players, African-American singers, dancers, such that we are partaking in the fullness of what the university has to offer. And part of my experience is that I really didn't figure Princeton out until I was a junior or going to a senior and walking out the door. And hopefully what I've helped do is lay some of the framework in such that when students walk in, that they truly feel that Princeton is theirs. And we historically have not claimed Princeton. We have deferred in many instances to individuals who probably deserve to be there less than we do, given the trials and tribulations that many of us have gone through to get there. But I say to all of us that Princeton is as much, if not more, ours. And if you look at our peer institutions, which I'll say Harvard and Yale, I don't know if they have, if you look at their board of directors, the diversity that we have, both race, gender, and other matrices of diversity. I don't believe that they have an African-American woman who's the head of alumni council. I don't believe that they have a former vice chair of the board of trustees. I don't believe that they have dorms such as Kwanzaa Jones Hall, Jose Feliciano Hall, or they have a college in the name of Melody Hobson. So I say that I am honored and proud that my own recognized the work, and I stand on the shoulders of Brent Henry and of Dennis Brownlee, and of those who came before me in service, including the senior Holmes, who was a few years ahead of me, who as an engineer blazed a path for me. So with great humility and gratitude, I want to say thank you for this award. And Eric, it wasn't 45 minutes, but it was probably longer than anybody else's.
No, I appreciate it, Jim. Thank you, man. Thank you. Awesome. Well, with the last two award winners we have for tonight are going to be our ABPA Distinguished Alumni Award winners, and really excited to share the space with them. The award language says, in recognition of the alumni who exemplifies the highest ideals and traditions of Princeton University. And these two gentlemen definitely do that in spades. First, we'll actually have Jesse Milan, Jr., class of 78, and I'll go through his bio, and then we'll follow up with Congressman Glenn Ivey from the class of 83. So for Jesse, Jesse Milan Jr. is living with HIV for 4 decades. He is president and CEO of AIDS United, a national organization focused on HIV policy, grant making, and capacity building. AIDS United is one of the top 10 funders for HIV in the world. It has granted over $129 million, and its current grantees and public policy council organizations number over 200 in 40 states and territories. Mr. Milan is a lawyer and recognized HIV expert and advocate whose career includes leading HIV programs and organizations at national, regional, and global levels. He has addressed millions across the United States and in Africa for the United States, the U.S. State Department, and received numerous awards for his HIV work, including from the American Bar Association, the Association of Nurses in Aid Care, and an honorary doctorate of humane letters from Virginia Theological Seminary. He is currently chair of the board of Funders Concerned About AIDS, FCAA, and serves on the scientific advisory board for the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, and on the Infectious Disease Board of the American Board of Internal Medicine. He served previously as AIDS Director for Philadelphia, as co-chair of 3 federal advisory committees on HIV, and was board chair of the Black AIDS Institute and the National Episcopal AIDS Coalition. A proud member of the Princeton class of 1978, Mr. Milan, as president of the class of the 1978 Foundation. Mr. Milan served as president of the class of 1978 Foundation and was elected vice president of his class at its 25th reunion. Earlier, he was vice president at 2 federal public health contractor firms, was a deputy city solicitor for Philadelphia, and served 6 years as chief of staff to the president of Temple University. He is a graduate of the NYU School of Law. Jesse and his husband celebrate 35 years together in 2023. So without further ado, I will pass the mic to Jesse.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for that very generous introduction. We've been sharing a lot of our stories tonight among many of us who are being honored tonight, and I'd like to share just a piece of mine, because it was 50 years ago in the fall of 1973, when I was a high school senior, and the Princeton catalog arrived by mail at my home. And the cover of the catalog had the motto, "Princeton in the nation's service." And I was hooked. Those words inspired me, and I simply had to go there. Service is not what I learned at home, it was my home. My father was the first Black public school teacher in the town where I grew up, which was also the home to the University of Kansas. He became a local president and then state president of the NAACP. And for the University of Kansas, my parents were alumni sponsors for the Kappas and the Deltas. And neither the Kappas nor the Deltas had a house, so my house was their fraternity and sorority house. Black college students were in my home constantly. For many of us, being a Black student at Princeton was a challenge, and we all had to find our way. And we had to find out who we were. And after Princeton, we all had to find out how Princeton could help us become who we hoped to be. I only knew that I needed to do something in service to others. And 3 years after I left Princeton, the very year I graduated from law school, was the year the first cases of AIDS were reported by the CDC. I did not know then that HIV/AIDS would become my life's mission and work, but it has. And I certainly never expected that an illustrious organization like the Association of Black Princeton Alumni would recognize that work. But you have, and I am very grateful. HIV/AIDS is very much defined by the Black diaspora. It stretches from the US South to the global South, and Black people have borne the greatest brunt of the HIV epidemic since the beginning. 36 million dead, mostly Black people. 36 million living with HIV today, mostly Black people. 1.2 million living with HIV in the United States, mostly Black. Both historically and today, it is gay men, especially gay men of color, and Black women and Black men, both cisgender and transgender, who are the ones most vulnerable to HIV. They're the ones still dying of HIV. They're the ones not yet on HIV treatment, and the ones most in need of PrEP that can prevent an HIV infection. They are my people. They are our people. They are me. In my work as the CEO at AIDS United, as board chair of funders concerned about AIDS, and the many roles I've had over the year, including chair of the board of the Black AIDS Institute, my travels for the State Department, AIDS director for Philadelphia, and all these many federal committees I've been on and grant review panels I've served on, I've tried to be the voice of all people living with HIV and vulnerable to HIV, sometimes being the voice for all colors and orientations, and for all genders and ages, and often being the voice for those who have passed on. It's a kind of service that I know my lived experience makes credible, but all of us who went to Princeton know that our professional credibility is enhanced by us having a Princeton degree. It can be used for achieving many goals, but I've seen how it can be used for advancing great public service. My parents are not here to see this wonderful award in person, but I know they're watching from above. My husband and my brother are joining me tonight on this Zoom, and I'm grateful for my family's support, as grateful as I am for this endorsement and this great award from all of you. I want to share that at reunions last month, I heard the stories of the first Black women to graduate from Princeton 50 years ago. We who attended Princeton over the last half century have seen and been many firsts. I was the first Black in the Footnote singing group. And at reunions, I stood at the gate of the Ivy Club, where my classmate and Karen Ali's classmate, Travis Emery, and I were the first Black members. And as I stood at the gate, I was greeted by 6 Black undergraduates, men and women coming out of the Ivy Club. It was awesome. And tonight, I'm receiving this award on Juneteenth and in Pride Month. Our people are still creating and celebrating first. And I hope that ABPA continues celebrating many more firsts, that we who went to Princeton may be helping to beget for generations to come. So thank you so much. Thank you so very much for shining your light on HIV/AIDS and on me. Thank you especially to Marguerite Hadley and to the awards committee. I pledge to do my best to live up to what this award means for my family, for my people, and for all of us who are inspired to be part of Princeton in the nation's service and the service of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. That was inspiring and heartfelt, and really appreciate all that you have done, all that you continue to do. So thank you. And last but not least, we have the second ABPA Distinguished Alumni Award winner, and this is going to be Congressman Glenn Ivey. So to give a little bit of background on Glenn, he is an attorney who served on Capitol Hill as chief counsel to the Senate Majority Leader, as counsel to Senator Paul Sarbanes during the Whitewater investigations, chief major counsel to the Senate Banking Committee, and on the staff of Representative John Conyers, Democrat from Michigan. He also worked for U.S. Attorney Eric Holder as an assistant U.S. attorney and as chair of Maryland's Public Service Commission. He was twice elected as state's attorney for Prince George County, where he worked with the Obama administration to cut crime. Congressman Ivey established Ivey in Levittown in 2020 and recently represented a Lafayette Square protester, arguing that the facial recognition software used to identify him compounds discrimination against dark-skinned people. The Department of Justice throughout the case, as chair of the county executive, Angela Alsobrooks Police Reform Task Force in 2020, Ivey led the committee that examined the police department's internal policies. Ivey grew up in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, where the schools of his hometown were still segregated when he started attending. But he watched his mother, a librarian, desegregate 4 different white schools, as well as his father, who worked for a federal war on poverty agency that helped unemployed workers in Eastern North Carolina get job training and find jobs. It was then Ivey saw the power of public service and the impact that advocates can have on social justice. And ever since, he has been a tireless fighter for our community. As Prince George County's state's attorney, he created a first of its kind domestic violence prosecution unit and pushed for stronger witness intimidation penalties. When the real estate market went south, he established an award-winning mortgage fraud unit that stood up for homeowners. Ivey resides in Prince George's County with his wife, Jolene, a county council member. His son, Julian, serves as a delegate for District 47A in Maryland's House of Delegates. Ivey is a graduate of Princeton University, class of 83, and Harvard Law, 86. Without further ado, I will pass the floor to Congressman Glenn Ivey.
Thank you for that kind introduction. Of course, this is the moment the dogs would decide to start, barking at everything. But I really appreciate the opportunity to, speak to the group. Thank you for this award. I greatly appreciate it. I really want to echo James Simmons' comments from a few moments ago. I think he really touched on a lot about the ambivalent sense of what it was like to go to Princeton, the benefits and the burdens of it. But also, I think, sort of the ongoing challenges of trying to stay engaged with the university, even if you had mixed feelings about what you had going for you while you were there, what you went through while you were there. But I think from my perspective, it's really been great. The benefits of having a Princeton education and frankly, a Princeton degree have been extremely helpful for every stage of my career. It's never been a negative for me. And I do also want to say this too. I had mixed feelings about attending Princeton when I was first accepted. Back then, I don't know if they still do that, but they had April hosting. So I went up to visit and I ran into a young man named Jay Young. And Jay was there from Pittsburgh. He'd come from, a relatively modest background, and he had been admitted to Princeton. He was there. He was sitting on the steps of the Third World Center, and trying to decide what he wanted to do. And when I went up to speak with him, and we connected instantly. And Jay's one of the real reasons that I decided to go to Princeton. I felt like if they've got people like this here that are this down to earth, this smart, this kind, this thoughtful, and this ambitious, this would be a good place for me. Jay passed about 12 years ago, unexpectedly from a heart attack. And it's been a huge loss for not only for me and his family, but I think for the community at large. But his son Jared had a chance to attend Princeton and graduate. He's been out now for several years. And I know it's a big goal of Jay's to have his son go, because yes, he had a mixed bag experience, but like James was saying a few moments ago, if your son had a chance, if your kid had a chance to go to Princeton, would you want him to go? And the answer was yes. And even though he was dead at the time that Jared made the decision, Jared knew that his father would want him to attend Princeton and get the benefits of that. Wonderful man. To Aaron, I would say this: Patrice Johnson. The award you won is named after her. Patrice was someone I intersected with when I took a job on Capitol Hill working for Congressman John Conyers. She worked for a congressman named Mickey Leland from Texas, and those two and several others died in a plane crash in Africa. They were on their way to provide relief service in Ethiopia, and their plane got in trouble and crashed, and there were no survivors from that crash. But she was someone who, in her short time on the planet, gave great service to someone who was also giving great service, Mickey Leland. I think it's a high honor to have an award named after her. So, Aaron, I know you'll live up to that. You're off to an outstanding start, and I know you'll keep up the work. For me, in my perspective, having a chance to come back and work on Capitol Hill. I was there as a staffer in 1987 for Congressman Conyers, and as you heard in the introduction, I worked there in the 90s for Senator Paul Sarbanes, who also was a Princeton grad. In fact, one of the main reasons he decided to retain me when he took over the committee was because I had Princeton and Harvard Law School roots, and that made a difference from his perspective. He's someone who also sent, I think, 3 of his children to Princeton, so he had deep and strong ties to the university as well. It's another example where Princeton really made a difference for me. And then, of course, I've been involved in politics as an African American over the last couple decades, and it just happened that I overlapped with Michelle Obama while I was at Princeton. She's gone on to do great things. Craig has gone on to do great things. Barack has gone on to do great things, and it's great to be connected to that circle. I think I'll say this for all of us as Princeton graduates moving forward. I think the Supreme Court's about to strike down affirmative action. I don't think there's going to be any preferential treatment in college admissions. I think they'll probably strike that down next week. So I think all of us are, there's a calling for us to make sure that institutions like Princeton, but not only Princeton, continue to make sure they do all the types of things they can to admit, whether it's Black or brown, or continue the affirmative action type of work and pipeline that's been developed over 40 or 50 years since we started having the chance to come there. And it's going to be bigger than that too. I think there's going to be a loss of preferential treatment opportunities and things like government contracting. We have minority businesses across the country whose business model is based on getting government contracts and sheltered programs like the 8A program, or the certain programs that state and local governments offer to try and give minority businesses a shot. And even with those programs over the last 30 or 40 years, they've still had challenges of having a chance to get a fair shot at government contracts and the trillions of dollars that have helped to fund and nurture majority businesses, for the last several decades. So we need to work on those grounds as well to make sure changes are made. Aaron referenced the prisons. I had a stretch where after I'd been a federal prosecutor and an elected local prosecutor, I started representing people who were in prison. usually essentially pro bono. And I helped people, I started out helping folks that were, nonviolent first-time offenders. But, over time, I realized that there were people who were not only violent offenders, but murderers who were in jail and had been there, but it really turned their lives around and were making a difference in the prisons that they were in. And I think had earned the chance to get back out. So I actually started representing some of them. And before I was elected to Congress, we had a chance to get some of those guys out. I've got one coming out in a few weeks. It's a challenge. And those are people who were smart and talented and capable, just like all of us, but didn't have the opportunities that we had in one way or another. And, I think it's incumbent on us to make sure that even though, we had those opportunities, they didn't back in the day, but we can help them get those opportunities now, even if they're 40 or 50 or 60 years old. And I think we need to try and remain committed to answering that call. So I want to thank ABPA for giving me this award. I want to make a commitment tonight. I've been in public service one way or another. I haven't always been in public office in my career, but I've always been committed to public service, and I'm going to continue that while I'm in Congress. And, I'll leave eventually. I don't know what the timeline is going to be for that, but no matter when that is, we're going to continue to make every change that we can to help all the people that we can help. There's John Rawls was one of the books I read, A Theory of Justice, when I was at Princeton. And he talked in terms of people, sort of the inequality, call it the veil of ignorance. If you didn't know what your circumstances you were going to be born into, how would you structure the world? And I think it's clear that that's not how the world is structured these days. But because we have the benefits and the blessings of Princeton education and so many other things that we've had an opportunity to have a chance to do and benefit from, I think it really elevates the call for us to make a difference in the lives of people who haven't. So, and here in the United States, which is the most blessed country in the world, and we're here in the most blessed time in the world for this country, and certainly for African Americans. I mean, there's no better time to be an African American than today. If you look at in contrast to our ancestors, or at least mine, who were slaves here in the United States, didn't have any opportunities. My relatives and ancestors just had a chance to start going to school in my parents' generation. So this is a special time. We've been given special opportunities, and as they say, a particular set of skills. We need to make the most of them. So thanks for this award, and let's keep up the great work.
Awesome. Thank you, Glenn. Couple of quick comments as we wrap up. One, I think to a person, every award winner thanked ABPA for giving them this award. I would like to thank you all for earning this award, right? Like, at the end of the day, you all did all the work. Us being able to honor you is the least that we could do in this transaction. So just thank you all for all that you have done to make both Princeton and our world, frankly, a better place. So thank you. Two, just an awesome way to celebrate Juneteenth, right? Like, I think Jesse says it best, like, with the combination of Juneteenth and Pride Month, and just being able to like really honor you all during this time, and to hear your stories and to be immersed in that. Just thank you all again for that. Would love to thank just our unofficial yet official awards committee of Catherine Toppin, Marguerite Headley Vera, and Charles Davis. Just thank you for helping us to find these great award winners, and to continue to do so as we go through. And with this being my sixth and last ABPA award ceremony, just one, want to thank you all for attending, and two, just want to ask you all to welcome Michael Gunter, class of 2014, who will be the new ABPA president starting July 1. So excited to be able to pass the torch on to him, and looking forward to all the great work that'll be done there. So with that, I would like to just thank you all. Just have a great evening, and just thank you for helping us to give these great leaders their flowers while we still can. So much appreciated, and have a great last couple of hours of your Juneteenth 2023. we'll hopefully see you all soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Night.